Call to order this regular meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors for August 1, 2023. And at this point in time, if I could ask that we please have silence.
Folks, it's beginning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Roll call.
Blair.
Here.
Smiley.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Risler.
Here.
Allen is absent. And Carol.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, if you will please stand with me, Director Hunt will lead us in prayer. And please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the city we live in, all the blessings that you've provided for the city, the citizens. Thank you for the provisions you've provided. Lord, I thank you for all those who are here tonight to just express any concerns they may have or any desires that they may want us to hear about. Lord, I pray that as we go through the meeting that we are respectful of each other and that we just remember that we are all here for the same reason, and that is just to make this a good place to live, whether it be in Siloam, outside of Siloam. Just help us to remember to be respectful of each other and to show your love as much as we can. Again, thank you for bringing everybody out tonight. I pray for those who are impacted by this heat that you will just provide with whatever provisions they need. And again, just thank you for all the blessings that you do provide. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Time, I would like to ask anyone that has an electronic device to please silence that. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. So before we move into public input, I am going to ask the directors if I would have a motion to move Ordinance 23-19, the annexation election, up to be considered at this time.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Risler.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion to move ordinance is approved. Can you hear?
Not able to hear out in the lobby.
Is it on out in the lobby? Can we check and see? Give us just a minute and we'll check on that.
He's asking if you'll say something to.
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me now? Do we have sound? Yes? Can we hear?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you all for your patience. So at this time, Ordinance 23-19 is on its second reading, the annexation election. And before we move into this, I know several of you are here because of the annexation question. So I would like to ask for a show of hands for those that are here to speak against the annexation. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. So having said that, and knowing that that is the consensus pretty much of everyone in this room, I'm going to ask directors if I can have a motion to remove this annexation consideration from our agenda to be considered at a later time by the staff to be brought back to you all after further meetings and more information is given.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
may we tweak that a little bit? In that we are, today, we are 15 months from general election. And I think 15 months would be a wonderful time for due diligence to see that we get this done properly, accurately, and in order.
And I believe, Director Carroll, that is where staff is leading.
Okay.
That is what they will consider is getting this information together so that it can have, we can have a public meetings, we can have more information for the board before, it would not be this November, it would not be on this November ballot. It would be the next November, perhaps, if that's the direction the board gives. Is that what you're asking? Is that
Yes,
what
at
you're,
the
okay.
next general election.
Gotcha, okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I would also like to add that we make sure we have lots of public meetings so people can give their input early in the game instead of waiting until it be.
and I think staff is very aware of that and is going to be working toward that for everyone.
And
Okay.
Madam Mayor, one more comment. Or do we discuss after we've done the first and second?
We are, no,
Okay.
this, if you all.
Just to clarify that, the time, my understanding would be if we take some time, that if another proposal comes back to us, it may look different than this one. So it's not just waiting and bringing the same proposal back.
No,
Just
that is
to
correct.
clarify.
It,
Okay.
it is, staff is going to take into consideration your comments as a board, comments that they will receive from everyone involved,
Yes.
all of our citizens that want to speak. And at that point in time, they will bring back to you an ordinance that is rewritten. It will not be this same ordinance that you're looking at and we're proposing to remove.
I just wanted to clarify
Sure.
that for the
Okay.
public's sake.
So, I have a motion and a second to remove from the agenda. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. So, that means that this ordinance is dead, as it is presented. I want to thank you all, and I know the directors thank you for your concern, for your input, and we will be having public meetings, but this will not be on the next agenda on August 15th. It will not be on the November ballot. Thank you all.
I get a suggestion, next time you have a meeting, try somewhere that you can hold several hundred people, not just a handful.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I have a question real quick?
Yeah, if you'll wait just a minute, we're going to move into public input time, okay? And then we'll let you come up, okay? So, the next item is our public input. If there is someone that would like to address the board on an item that is not on our regular agenda, if you would come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Madam Mayor, can we ask them to be quiet?
Yeah.
Can we take a recess?
Steve, if we can have just a moment, I think we're going to give everyone a chance to kind of clear out so that we have, the noise level is down. Thank you. So we will take a 5-minute recess while we wait for those that need to leave and want to leave to do that. We will call this Board of Directors meeting back to order. If I could ask that we please have silence at this time. Please, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, are we back on and going? Yes, okay. So we are to public input. And again, sir, if you will come to the podium and give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Can we ask them to be quiet in the hall? Thank you.
Scott, can you take care of that for us?
Thank you very much for your time. My name is Steve DeVoe. I live at 15040 Airport Road in Siloam Springs. Today we received a notice of tax change in the mail from the Department of Finance and Administration here in Arkansas. It says that there is a 2% increase that is supposed to be taking place October 1st for the annexation of Siloam Springs. So how does that come into play if we're putting this on the table?
I would have to defer to our legal counsel, Jay, for that answer.
I have not seen anything like that. I don't know what authority they would have to do anything until the measure was passed by this board and a vote of the people.
Well, that's what we would have thought as well.
So I
But
have no idea what their authority is, what they're claiming in order to do that.
as of October 1st, 2023, we're supposed to start charging an additional 2% for the annexation.
I would say that staff will check into that,
Yeah.
but that is not normally what would happen unless it is passed by this board to be put on the ballot and then for it to be approved by the citizens on that ballot.
Well,
No
I thought it might
change.
have been a little premature.
It sounds
Yes.
like it.
Yes.
So we'll check into that and we'll find out. Yes.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time.
Yes.
And thank you very much for considering the delay of the annexation. I think it's a smart move.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else?
Hello, my name's Allison Bellamy, and I live at 20062 Edgewood Circle here in Siloam Springs. I'd like to also ask if I could have an extra minute before I start.
We are actually not going
Okay, then
to lengthen tonight. We have,
I won't make as much eye contact then.
that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, and this is regarding pickleball courts. So, City Board, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address all of you today. As a longtime resident and pickleball enthusiast in Siloam, I stand before you to advocate for an investment that I believe will bring numerous benefits to our community. That would be the installation of 6 to 8 pickleball courts here in Siloam. Pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in America. In 2020, they assumed that there were about 4 million people playing. Now they assume there are 40 million people playing. The growth rate in pickleball for active players in Siloam has had almost the same growth rate. So 2 years ago we had a handful, now we have a pickleball community of over 200 members. Pickleball is not a fad, and it will continue to grow over the next decade and provide economic and social benefits to Siloam. And here's why. 1, it's a multi-generational, multi-age sport. I teach it here in Siloam every Tuesday. I have ages 9 to 75. I work with seniors here in Siloam, and there are very few places where seniors can plug in that promote community, relationships, exercise, and getting time outside. How great that we already have an opportunity for families, friends, and all ages in our community to participate in, regardless of your age. We are already a strong pickleball community and team. That's my point number 2. We've seen growth and interest in this sport locally. However, being limited to 4 courts has greatly reduced the number of players to learn and practice. It can be quite intimidating and hard for those new players to come in with the pressure that might be taking a court away from an experienced player. That's not the kind of conflict or experience we want anyone to have on our courts here in Siloam. We want to accommodate every skill and every type of level from beginner to elite. A lack of courts limits the rapid growth of pickleball in Siloam. We want to see it grow, and we want to see more tournaments nationwide. Which leads me to number 3. If we have tournaments, there's potential revenue. Additionally, hosting tournaments will attract visitors from neighboring areas, boost tourism, support local businesses, which helps our town's growth. There are tournaments being played all over the nation for all ages. It would be great if we could put some money and make some money here in Siloam on tournaments. Our group is playing all over Northwest Arkansas and neighboring states. If we had 8 courts, we could have some excellent earning potential. Wes Horton and I, another pickleball player, have been experimenting this year. We've hosted 3 tournaments locally. The first one was in January. I had 24 openings. It filled up in 1 hour. We did another tournament in June. Wes did that one. We did a fundraiser for a youth group. We raised over $1,000 to help kids go to camp. There's a lot of potential to help and make money here. We can teach, we have clinics, leagues, and tournaments. It will all help our town economically. I know without a doubt that these courts will foster a stronger sense of community and encourage social interaction for all ages. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I can see there is a lot of support for pickleball.
Yes. Now, only one of us spoke, but there's a whole lot who could share.
We have been getting a lot of information via email and personal contact, so I would tell you that this board and our staff is very aware of the support that there is in this city for pickleball. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
My name's Rick Bussey. I live at 21304 Davidson Road, Siloam Springs. I have a question for you in that I'd like to know how you determine what you're going to annex and what you're not going to annex. You know, before we was putting an annexation, and y'all went clear to almost the Gentry city limits. Now you haven't went that far, but nobody's ever talked to us if we wanted to be annexed or not. So it seems like to me, when you go into annexation, it's sort of like a dictatorship. You're going to be told what you're going to do because we got a lot more people on your side than what we've got on our side. So we'd like to know out here how you determine what land you're going to take and want to annex and what you're not.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Michael Kiritan. I live on 19836 Shin Springs Road, and it's under my assumption we've had some fiber optic cables being laid by a contractor on Airport Road, and they've turned on Shin Springs. They're doing a great job. They're very efficient. I'm very impressed with how much they've gotten done. I'm assuming that was in connection with the future annex that was potentially going to happen. I don't know if that can be confirmed or not. I don't know.
It would not be.
Okay.
It is not the city.
I know that Brightspeed has been out looking at poles and starting some work
Okay.
for
So
fiber internet.
But it
Okay.
is not the city.
Okay. I guess that answers my question. I had some concerns about some tree protection plans within this whole possibility because as they're digging through, they are going straight through the structural root zone of these large trees and even into the critical root zone, which is a pretty big no-no when you're doing construction around trees. So I'm assuming, again, a lot of assumptions, that they're not going to take responsibility when these trees die, but I guess that's nothing for the city to find out.
That is, yeah, it is
One
not,
thing-
and we have no jurisdiction over
Yeah,
that.
and real quick, one thing I would encourage, and I don't know if on city development, if there is some sort of tree protection plan that goes into the development stuff of when the city does kind of grow and expand or build something. So being a certified arborist, I think it's a very important thing, especially with the green space and trying to keep as much canopy as we can. So thanks.
Thank you. Scott, did you have something you wanted to say?
Captain Miller, Siloam Springs Police Department. I was just going to answer that gentleman's questions. That actually, we had some citizens come into the police department because they were digging on their land and things of that nature. It's actually, we did a little digging. It's Cox Cable who got a federal grant
Captain Miller.
and a Benton County grant to lay the cable.
Captain.
So that's where you would have to go to find out more information. Yep.
I'm sorry, but next time, just speak into the mic for me,
All right.
please, so we
Thank
can
you.
get it on the recording.
I apologize, I was there.
No, thank you very much. Anyone else? If not, is there anyone that would like to address an item that is on the consent agenda tonight? There being none, we will move on then to the consent agenda. Item A, workshop minutes, July 18, 2023. Item B, regular meeting minutes, July 18, 2023. Item C, dedication of utility easements, 1200 North Carl Street. Item D, budget amendment, $135,973 for the Siloam Springs School District, public use of tennis courts. Item D, budget amendment, $135,973. I'm sorry, that's a repeat. I'm sorry. Item E, memorandum of understanding for the Siloam Springs School District, school resource officers, $303,233.94. Directors, is there any item on the consent agenda that you would like to have removed for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
D.
Item D. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with item D removed?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. So item D, Director Rissler.
I think there was some confusion, and I have a couple questions too, but there was some confusion. The timeline of the pickleball courts, just some clarification, because, yeah, there was confusion on the pickleball compared to the public use. So if we approve this, when does the timeline fit? When do they get their pickleball courts? When does everything occur?
Sure. Travis Cheney, Parks and Recreation Manager. So currently, the Siloam Springs School District is breaking ground on their new baseball, softball, tennis complex. And so right now, if we were to try to enter into a joint use agreement with the school, would be the time to do that. The last I've heard for their timeline of trying to wrap that job up would be sometime this coming winter. And with, because those tennis courts would not be available for public use until the construction was completed, we weren't recommending trying to do any kind of budget amendment this year for pickleball because it's still 6 to 8 months out until they would finish that construction there. Staff's recommendation, hearing what we have from the pickleball community, is that we go ahead and move now on approving the joint use agreement with the school district and amending the budget while they're in the construction phase. And then we would be putting a request into the 2024 budget for y'all's approval to then convert the existing tennis courts in Bob Henry Park to dedicated pickleball courts so that there's not conflicts of use, and then would expand the number of courts there. So that request would come in the 2024 budget.
Okay, and what kind of cost are we looking at to convert to the pickleball per court?
Sure, it depends. It depends on how much you want to do. Those are things that we can bring in the budget. There's a low end of simply patching what we've got and painting over, which is relatively inexpensive, all the way up to tearing out the slab. The slab's over 50, 60 years old, tearing that out and starting over. So it's a pretty broad range from $60,000 to, if you go all the way up to starting from scratch, $500,000. So we would be putting something in the 2024 budget that would fit with what is going on in the rest of the city, and staff feels could accommodate the budget.
Is there any structural damage to the courts now?
Well, yes. The slab is 50 or 60 years old, and so it's degrading. It's got asphalt on top of it, and that concrete's settling at a different rate than the asphalt, and so those cracks always telegraph through. So it is a matter of time whether you stay with tennis there or convert to pickleball courts. Some point sooner or later, the slab will likely need to be addressed.
They seem to be limited on time. Is there a reason we can't give them more time right now? Because it seems like if it's pretty popular right now, and it seems like they're really restricted on time.
Are you the school district or the pickleball community?
The
Tuesday and
pickleball
Thursday
community
nights.
on the current courts.
Okay. They're restricted on time there. Well, we have 2 dedicated nights just for pickleball, 1 dedicated night just for tennis. And then the rest of the time is, come as you will to play, whatever you want to play. So there are temporary nets that sometimes get rolled out of the way, sometimes don't. And if folks come during the weekday, right now it's 6:30, 7 in the morning. People can play anytime, but they're dedicated time just for pickleball, where courts are reserved is Tuesday nights and Thursday nights.
Could we not make one of the courts? Because I called some cities around here and I was asking them, okay, what do you do in the meantime while you're trying to figure out how to, because it is a growing sport and
Sure.
they're trying to figure out how to make it work in their community. Could we not dedicate one of the courts specifically for the pickleball courts?
That's a possibility. It wouldn't gain really any space. It wouldn't change how many people can play at one time. And I think that's the difficulty they're having right now, is that there are 4 courts, and oftentimes of an evening they're going to have 70 people out there, and so they're hoping to get more courts.
Right, for right now though, because what I found out is a lot of the cities around us are taking their tennis courts and making 4 courts. So you already use them 4 courts, just dedicate a court for them for 4 courts for them, and then you have a tennis court and pickleball court, and they have more time.
And that's what we've got right now is
Dedicated.
So we have 4 pickleball courts painted on top of 2 tennis courts.
Okay. So it's dedicated. It's their time now. I mean, then why do you have to split the time?
You mean between tennis and pickleball?
Mm-hmm. On that one court, if it's a pickleball court.
Well, so there are 2 courts, one kind of, I'll say a complex that's all fenced in, 2 tennis courts or 4 pickleball courts. And just so that everybody has some dedicated night to play. We've got 2 nights dedicated strictly for pickleball, 1 dedicated strictly for tennis, so that there's not a conflict on those nights. And then the rest of the days, nights, people come as they will. And sometimes there may be 1 court somebody's playing tennis on, and the other tennis court may have 2 pickleball games going. If you are able to convert those 2 existing tennis courts to just dedicated pickleball courts, you could shift things around and get 6 there on the current footprint.
Does JBU have tennis courts?
They do.
They allow us to use them.
They currently do not, unless you're a member.
Madam,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was asked, was you going to do a presentation or no? Just no presentation?
I'd answer any questions you'd like me to answer.
Okay, so we got a picture, figure 1.
Mm-hmm.
A picture, okay. And it says the layout of the Siloam Springs High School Athletic Complex. And it shows a sidewalk going to the tennis courts. I was asked, is that other sidewalk, why are we doing 2 sidewalks? Can citizens not use the current sidewalk that's in the plan?
Correct. So the plan as built, to my understanding, is that facility is going to be locked for a good part of the time. And so this would be a dedicated public sidewalk that only connects to the tennis courts, and the rest of the facility will remain locked. Sort of like you'd have, say, at the high school stadium. They would try to lock those facilities up just for dedicated school use, and then have a separate public entrance that would just get you to the tennis courts and not to the baseball fields and softball fields.
Okay, so yeah, that's one of the questions I was asking. And about the lighting, is there not already current lighting planned out there? Is there additional lighting needed for the public?
Well, there would be. What the school is asking as a part of this is that we would cover 2 of the courts, since the public will be using them for perpetuity, and then that the city would cover timers for those 2 courts, so that if folks are out there at night, it will likely be citizens. They can control if and when the lights come on.
Mindy?
Thank you. So you gave me news I didn't understand. I didn't realize. I thought that the Tuesday and Thursday nights were the only time that pickleball could be played, but you're saying those are the only 2 designated, and then there's only 1 designated tennis time.
Correct.
And the rest is, if the tennis players get out there first, get both courts, then pickleball waits, or vice versa?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's first come, first serve most of the time.
So they do have a little bit more time than I realized if they're there, on first come, first serve. I have witnessed it myself. It is a very popular sport, and I know the pickleball players are just very gracious people to let anyone in and out to play. I'm a beginner, so when I play, people have to be real patient with me, but it is just a really neat opportunity for you to see both young and old and everyone in between. So I do like that idea, but I did want to clarify something. We've talked about a recreation facility, possibly in the next 3 to 5 years. Would there be a plan for pickleball courts in that recreation facility?
It's likely, and I'll just say, simply from looking at the 2040 comprehensive plan, the feedback that came back from the public out of that was that they would like some sort of indoor recreation center and pickleball courts somewhere in the city. Right. And so from our side, and I think y'all have heard the same thing, pickleball is growing at a pace that it was the opinion of staff and the opinion of the pickleball community that waiting for the rec center may not be tenable. Right. And so staff began looking at options for what we can do in the meantime. And as we saw in this memorandum, there were 3 options. One was wait for the rec center. Of course, that could be potentially 3 to 5 years away. Also, that 29 acres out there will quickly fill up. And so part of the thought of potentially doing pickleball earlier means that there could be a potential that there is more space there for other amenities that we learn about during our needs assessment and feasibility study for the recreation center.
Well, and actually where I was going with that is that if there is a plan to include pickleball with that recreational facility, perhaps retrofitting the current tennis courts to pickleball, maybe without the greater expense that we could spend, but then knowing that in the future, within 3 to 5 years, we will have brand new pickleball courts. Maybe that's,
and that may very well be the case. I think
what
staff is really waiting on right now is spending a year doing our needs assessment and feasibility study, and really hearing from the community what all do you want at that rec center and prioritizing it. So I would feel a little hesitant to,
promise
to say, I'll definitely be pickleball courts out there because.
But I do agree that we need to try to do something to give more access sooner rather than later. I see it's Tuesday nights when I'm going home from my board meetings, those courts are full.
They are very full.
8:30, 9:30 at night, they are full. Of course, now you really shouldn't play until 9:30 at night because it's so hot. But they are full and people are waiting. But that pickleball community, they're very friendly and helpful, and and they just wait for each other. They just got a system. So, but yeah, it's a very popular sport.
It is, and
a very unique sport in terms of the multi-generational aspect.
And staff saw this potential option as the least expensive way to move more quickly to having pickleball courts. There's the waiting for the rec center. There would be constructing new pickleball courts at a standalone facility. $750,000 to $850,000 for that, and that's why we're bringing this recommendation. Move quickly with the school district now, and come in 2024 budget with a recommendation for dedicating our current tennis courts to pickleball.
And while I've got the floor, I just want to thank those in the pickleball community who have reached out to the board. Just We appreciate hearing from you all, just like we appreciate hearing from any citizens that reach out to us. But it's always helpful to know what the needs and desires are, and we'll do what we can to at least make you feel heard. And if we can meet some of those needs, great. So thank you.
Mindy, anyone else? Yes, Betsy.
I went down when they invited the board, and I know one of the things they were interested in, of course, was indoor courts also. Is that a consideration with the rec center?
You know, I would think that one I could say almost certainly.
Okay.
Because one of the main things that is really being looked at is some sort of basketball courts, which lend themselves really well to sharing with pickleball.
Okay.
So I would say if there is an indoor rec center that comes about, there would almost certainly be pickleball courts indoors at least.
Which, that would be nice. So, thank you.
Lisa?
Have we asked JBU about using their courts?
So the pickleball community does use them from time to time. They're restricted somewhat by when students are there.
The indoor courts.
The indoor courts. Are you talking about?
The indoor courts.
Yeah, they do. In fact, last summer we had tape on our tennis courts temporarily just to let people play pickleball. It was getting ripped up. It was coming apart. And so we took 2 weeks and just painted permanent pickleball courts on top of the tennis courts. And during that time, JBU was gracious enough to open up their facilities. They hosted our pickleball there. But it's during a very narrow time in the summer when there aren't students there, sometimes in the morning. So it's available there for members, but it's somewhat limited.
Okay, what about the tennis courts?
We haven't spoken with them about public use of the tennis courts currently.
It's an option.
Actually, I think you can play pickleball at JBU even during the school year on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Does anybody here that plays pickleball know that? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, okay. I knew there were 2 or 3 times during the school. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 11.
Yep. So there'd be 2 hours, 3 days a week during the school year.
You have to be a member. I don't think anyone could just come.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. That does make a difference. So it's not necessarily open to the public.
Right.
So yeah, it would be open to members during a couple limited time windows.
Okay. And will citizens be able to use, no matter what, even, I know they want this money, but would they be able to use it if this didn't, is this a conditional? Will a school let the public use their courts no matter what, or is it conditional upon this?
I would assume it would be conditional upon this unless there was some other agreement that was reached. So currently, this is the agreement that's been proposed and discussed between the school district and the city. But there hasn't been any discussion of going back with a different agreement.
I thank you for answering all my questions.
Sure.
And I do thank the pickleball community. I couldn't think of the name earlier, and I'm so sorry. It's hot in here. But I do appreciate everybody taking time to come out and voice their concerns.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Had an opportunity last week to go and every intent to observe pickleball and ended up playing pickleball. I now have 2 rackets in my home. And any of you who are YouTubers that know how to make money at it, come on Tuesday nights. I will provide entertainment. But thank you for the pickleball. It's good.
Thank you, Reed. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve the budget amendment for $135,973 with the Siloam Springs School District?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiling.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Bristler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Travis. Appreciate that. Next on our agenda, we will move to our ordinances. Ordinance 23-20, first reading, amending Section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to C1, the 2600 block of North Country Club Drive. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Ben Rhodes. Let's get to the correct slide here. Yes, 2320. So yes, for your consideration this evening is a rezoning ordinance, rezoning from R2 single family to C1 roadway commercial. This is located at the 2600 block of North Country Club Road. And this also includes a proposed land use map amendment, which I'll cover a little bit more in detail later on in the presentation. And that amendment request is going from local commercial to mixed use. As you can see on the slide, it's for 4.85 acres. So here is just a general site plan concept of what they're going to do. So if you recall from, I believe it was the last board agenda, you guys approved the PD rezoning for the development back behind there. This is the second component to that. They didn't want to go with strictly a PD for the entire piece because the size of these proposed commercial structures doesn't fit within the allowed uses in the PD zone. There are limits on what you can do in a planned development, and you really can't do large-scale commercial in planned development. So they're proposing a C1. We don't see C1 as often with rezonings, and the reason that's picked rather than like a C2 or C1A is they're wanting to make that a mixed-use type development where there would be dwellings, apartments above, and then shopping below. And then it would be a walkable community that you can get to the neighborhood back behind. There is coincidentally actually a pickleball right there, right on the corner. So future residents there could walk to the pickleball. So here's just another site plan showing the area for consideration. Again, this is just the front lots here proposed for C1. And I think I did already cover the mixed use aspect. So looking at the future land use map, as you know, that's the guide we use for any type of rezoning request. And currently it's showing that area with the yellow rectangle as local commercial. And what they really need to be is mixed use centers to fit in with the proposed C1 zone. So what the comprehensive plan allows for, and one of the goals was to make amendments to the map from time to time whenever there are zonings that don't quite fit squarely with the guidance of the future land use map. So that's what they're doing here. They're requesting, in addition to the rezoning, a land use map amendment to get this to the mixed use, that green turquoise color on the map. So if that's approved, we would update our future land use map to show that area as mixed use. We are in support of the update because we do believe that the mixed use concept will work better with the rear development compared to just typical auto-centered type developments that wouldn't be mixed use. So here is the site highlighted there, looking to the north. We are recommending approval with the requested change to the future land use map to mixed use, and we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, any comments or questions for Ben? If there are none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 23-20? If there is not, I will come back to the directors. If you still have no questions or comments, I would ask for a motion to place Ordinance 23-20 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Risler.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-20, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code City Zoning Map, rezoning from R2 to C1, property located at the 2600 block of North Country Club Road, and amending the future land map future land use map of the 2040 Siloam Springs Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Next is item H, which is ordinance 23-21, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from C2 to I1, the 2000 block of Brashears Road. And at this time, I would also like to ask that we consider and get the update from Megan, who's going to do the presentation for staff, for item L, which is the resolution 44-23, the significant development permit for the 2000 block of Brashears Road, Best Veterinary Solutions. These two are for the same property, and she would like to do her presentation, both of those at the same time, and then we will vote on those separately. So if that is agreeable, yes, Megan?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is a revision to a previously approved significant development permit, as well as a rezoning request for property located at the 2000 block of Brashears Road. The applicant is requesting to revise the previously approved plans for a warehouse facility with a small office component. The change is to increase the proposed building square footage by 12,821 square feet for a new total square footage of 38,421 square feet. In addition to this revision of the significant development, the applicant is requesting to rezone the far west portion of the lot from C2 roadway commercial to I1 industrial in order to match the primary I1 zoning of the lot. If you recall, these three lots were previously combined into one single lot. However, that did not remove the C2 zoning on the west portion of it. Therefore, this rezoning is needed to clean up the split zoning on the lot, as well. That's shown here on the general area map, and as well as offers the applicant the chance to utilize the remaining portion of their property if needed in the future. The future land use map is calling for local commercial for the property. Therefore, this request is not in line with the intent of the future land use map. This is similar to Ben's previous project that he presented, where there is a future land use map amendment needed for this. So the existing land use takes precedence over the future land use map, and the existing land use is for industrial. Therefore, a future land use map amendment will be required for this request to amend the future land use designation for the property from local commercial to industrial. And this is the originally approved site plan. And this is the revised site plan. So you can see this has added the additional 12,821 square feet. They also have not changed anything about the drive on this. The parking layout is similar to what was previously improved, with a slight increase in parking to match the additional square footage for the building. It should be noted the applicant is requesting a 30% parking reduction with this revision. The parking reduction was previously approved with the last significant development approval. However, that is needed again. And this is showing you the areas that are being changed. So you can see that we have an additional fire apparatus that's shown here. They have also revised this fire apparatus that was previously further up here. They've made it shorter. And it is also now changed to a grass paved apparatus, and outlined in red here is where the additional parking begins. Nothing else has been changed on this plan. And this is the new landscape plan. The only thing to note on this is that there is no longer a fence that's shown along this northern property line that's abutting that R2. That was the last rezoning request that Ben just presented. So we've now changed that to a condition of approval that they have to provide opaque screening if they're abutting any Rs at that time of construction. And these are the elevations for the proposed structure. You guys have seen this. They haven't changed since last approval. And this is the overall site view. So this is the west C2 lot that needs to be rezoned, and over here is the site for the significant development. None of the significant development is currently taking place on the west portion that's still zoned C2. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning request with the future land use map amendment with no needed conditions. And staff is recommending approval of the significant development request with 3 needed conditions. The first condition is pertaining to the need to file drainage and utility easements via separate instrument as directed by the city engineer prior to certificate of occupancy issuance. Second, the applicant must provide a photometric plan that complies with all exterior parking lot lighting standards prior to building permit issuance. Finally, the applicant must provide sufficient screening along any property boundary that abuts a residentially zoned lot prior to building permit issuance. Staff is available for any questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. You said the conditions are on the significant development permit?
Yes,
Is
yes.
that correct?
The rezoning has no conditions, and it's with the future land use map amendment.
Thank you. Thank you. Directors, any comments or questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Megan, I do have a question. So is this property that we're looking at that we're being requested to change to I-1, is it just south of the last property we looked at?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And that's why we had them remove the fence on the submittal, and we just made it a condition because we knew that was coming through as a rezoning, and they weren't going to actually be abutting R at that time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 23-21? If not, directors, if there are no questions or comments, yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Mayor, I'm
Betsy.
just curious. So are they held to the new standards for drainage and all of that? You know, I had to ask a drainage question.
Kevin Moore, city engineer. They are under our old standard because the original approval for this project came through under that. So anything that expires and then any new projects would come through under the volumetric requirements. Anything that was already approved, we've allowed to come in under the old requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, then first motion I will ask for is for the ordinance. So I would ask, do I have a motion to place Ordinance 23-21 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-21, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from C2 to I1, property located at the 2000 block of Brashears Road, and amending the future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Next, I will ask for comments or questions on the Resolution 4423, which is the significant development permit. Is there any questions on that from directors? If not, is there anyone in the audience? There being none, directors, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 44-23 with the three listed conditions?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Blair?
Yes.
Smiley?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Rissler?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 33-23 for the preliminary plat development permit, Oak Brook Edition, 3095 North Mount Olive Street. And before we have the presentation, I do have a letter on behalf of the property owners and developers of the Oak Brook subdivision. They would like to request that the Siloam Springs Board of Directors remand the preliminary plat for the Oak Brook subdivision to the September 12th regularly scheduled Siloam Springs Planning Commission meeting. This will allow for the submission of a revised subdivision proposal that meets all the city regulations, eliminating the need for a block width waiver. The revised subdivision proposal will also have lots that are closer in size to the lots in the adjacent subdivisions. So, with that request being submitted to you, I would ask that, do I have a motion to remand this to the September 12th Siloam Springs Planning Commission meeting?
So moved. Second?
You have
Madam
a motion
Mayor?
and a second to remand? Yes.
Did I understand you to say that they will not be requesting the block
That is
The-
correct.
the-
There's going to be some
Okay.
significant
Okay.
changes, and that's why they're asking to remand it back to the planning and zoning. Is that correct, Ben? Yes? Okay. So, with that being the case, do I have a motion to remand?
So moved.
Second. I thought we already did this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. So I guess we're ready for a roll call.
Carol,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hiley,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion to remand is approved. Next is Resolution 42-23, Preliminary Plat Development Permit, Blackberry Estates Edition, 1300 to 1800 block of North Dogwood Street. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me just get through the correct slides there. So, yes, we are considering another preliminary plat request. This is occurring at the 13 to 1800 block of North Dogwood Street. This is on the east side of the street as you go north of Sherry Whitlock, just south of Villaview. And it's on about 20 acres, and they're requesting to split this into 12 estate-sized lots, with the average lot size about 1.5 acres. And they're calling it the Blackberry Estates Edition. One of the lots will be for a detention basin. And here you see the site plan. Unlike typical subdivisions, you see the infrastructure being included, which would be a street or a cul-de-sac or something like that. In this case, they're using just Dogwood Street and Sherry Whitlock for access for all the lots in question. Now, the lots back behind, what they're doing is there's a shared access easement here that will allow shared access to get through those two lots there. And then all the other lots, of course, will have access directly to the street. And this one will come in across over on this side. Let's see here. We, with the review of all the significant or the large-scale projects, the subdivision projects, we are looking at criteria for approval, and so that is what we have included on the blue shaded section on the right, and then the green shaded columns on the left are what's shaped out of our codes. So I'm not going to read all this, but in summary, the lots are complying, obviously, with the lot size. And moving on here, we're looking at the development, and we don't see any reason why there would be interference with other owners' reasonable peace and enjoyment of the properties, given the similar land use and house sizes that are being proposed with what's around in the area. Here you can see staff's finding on the criterion. In summary, staff finds that the development to be compatible with the area context, as I just was mentioning, and will not create burdens on the present or future uses of neighboring properties. And here you see an image that shows the utilities. These are all basically coming up along Dogwood, so there's plenty of access to water and sewer for this property. And then staff does not find any flaws with the proposal. As mentioned in staff report, city is in short supply of the larger residential lots, as we've talked about in work sessions and stuff in the past. So this is fulfilling that need. So this is hand in glove, right, what the community is needing in terms of that type of housing. And then here is the last criteria is following the codes on the left, that we don't have the proposed survey meets all the proposed criteria. And here we're looking at the future land use map. This is set for neighborhoods 2. As mentioned here, the density is suggested at 6 to 12 units per acre. However, in this case, the applicant is requiring a much lower density. The applicant is not requesting a rezone, so really you're not looking at the future land use map per se in terms of whether they can go with a lower density or not, because the density they're requesting is appropriate for the R2 zone, which is already in place on the property. So it's more just an informational piece just to know that they are a little bit lower density. But I would say that staff is in support of that because of the context of the area around here, and also because of the need for the larger lot housing. And with that, I would like to pass the floor over to Kevin Moore, who can cover more on the traffic and drainage impacts of the proposal. Kevin?
Thank you, Ben. Kevin Moore, City Engineer. Dogwood Street is a collector street, and it's been built to its full width. Thank you, I apologize. So design traffic load of 9,000 vehicles a day. Currently, across the frontage of this property, they're seeing about 2,200 vehicles a day. South of Sherry Whitlock, that number goes up to about 4,100, but still well within the collector design standard. We'll be looking at an additional 114 trips a day, which is just a small increase to the street there. And the impacts of Sherry Whitlock are considered negligible just with all the access in the area through Mount Olive and Sherry Whitlock and University. Looking at the drainage of the site drains primarily north to south, crossing Highway 43 a little bit, and then the detention pond will be proposed down here in the southwest corner. They are coming in under our new detention requirements, which means that the 10-year storm will the detention pond will hold back additional volume in the 10-year storm to below the existing standards today. So for that first 6 hours after a rain event, there would be no measurable difference after the development. It's the view of the site looking north. Staff is recommending approval with one condition. That is that the detention pond be oversized in order to hold back additional capacity to match the culvert underneath Sherry Whitlock Street. And with that, staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Directors, comments or questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Kevin, two slides back, I think the number of homes was 14, said 14, but isn't it 12? One more slide back. Is it 12 new single-family lots or 14?
It is 12.
Okay,
Yes.
I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would have comments or questions on Resolution 4223? There being none, directors, I would ask for a motion to approve Resolution 42-23 with one listed condition.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley?
Yes.
Wiles?
Yes.
Hunt?
Yes.
Bristler?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 43-23, the significant development permit for 320 North Simon Sager Avenue, Elliot Electric. Ben?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor and members of the board. Sorry, I just get the right place in my notes here. So yes, before you is a significant development permit. This is at 320 North Simon Sager. This is a few lots north of the Brick Oven Pizza, and this is the first significant development we're getting that's fronting actually on Simon Sager. The other ones have fronted on side streets or just not directly accessing on Simon Sager, so this one will. The request is a 15,000 square foot building. It's for electrical components called Elliot Electric. These are components that are typically sold to contractors, although they are available to the general public, so anyone can come in there and use their services. This building does replace one already in town on Lake Francis Drive. This will be a larger facility than the one that's currently in operation. Here is the site layout. Again, as I mentioned, this is coming in off of the Simon Sager with parking out in front and to the south. There will be fencing to the north because that abuts the reserve apartments, which, as you know, just was recently approved. Here you see a landscape plan. They have all the requisite trees around the perimeter and the frontage required by our codes, elevations, kind of your typical metal building, but it will be done nice with some trim and that kind of thing that will kind of accent the area. And then here is the site. This is the Brick Oven Pizza, Lowe's, of course, and then Simon Sager over there on the right. Staff is recommending approval with one needed condition on dedicating a drainage and utility easements. This will be needed prior to certificate of occupancy for the structure. And with that, we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, comments or questions? Anyone in the audience? If not, I'll come back to the directors and ask for a motion to approve Resolution 43-23 with one listed condition.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Bristler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 45-23, Significant Development Permit for 850 Highway 412 West, the Wienerschnitzel. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is a significant development permit request to construct a 1,448 square foot quick service restaurant with a drive-through service. This project is located at 850 Highway 412 West. This is Lot 1 of the Siloam Warehouse Edition, just on the corner of South Carl Street and Highway 412. On the screen is the overall site plan for the proposed quick service restaurant. And this is a more zoomed in version so that you guys can see it a little more clearly. The proposal is exceeding the minimum parking required, and the proposed drive-through does meet the minimum drive-through standards. As you can see, they're proposing to construct 2 separate drives to access the proposed development, with one drive shown here to access 412 and one drive shown here to access Carl Street. It should be noted there is a scrivener's error on page 6 of the staff report. The distance from the intersection of another street's right-of-way for the proposed drive along South Carl Street, that's this one right here, is actually 174.66 feet. Sorry for that. They're also proposing to construct a sidewalk along South Carl Street, which will connect to the existing sidewalk along Highway 412. You can see that that sidewalk kind of veers off here, and that's to avoid the existing gas meter that's there. The dumpster is shown here to the south of the site and is screened. Shown here is the proposed access for the future development to the east. We actually just received a lot split request today to split off this portion of this property. They are also proposing a shared drive here that will connect to a future lot to the east as well. As a condition of approval, the applicant will be required to dedicate access easements as directed by the city engineer prior to certificate of occupancy issuance. And this is the landscape plan for the proposed development. As mentioned in your board memo, there was an error with the drive-through landscaping that was discovered following the Planning Commission's approval of this project. The landscape plan that was presented to the commission was missing the required shrubs along this drive-through here. Since then, the applicant has provided a revised landscape that does meet the landscape standards. And this is that revised plan. So you can see all the little shrubs. Staff did not feel that this required a remand back to Planning Commission since it was such a minimal change and it was fixing it to meet the code standards. But it does meet all the landscaping requirements now. They are providing a 6-foot landscape buffer along all property boundaries, and they do have interior parking lot landscaping. And these are the elevations for the proposed quick stop restaurant. And this is the overall site view of the property. Staff is recommending approval of this request with 2 needed conditions. The first condition is that the applicant shall dedicate drainage and utility easements as directed by the city engineer for the proposed detention pond and public utilities installed as part of this project. The second is the applicant shall dedicate an access easement as directed by the city engineer for the proposed shared drive onto Highway 412. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors? No comments or questions? Is there anyone in the audience? If there are none, I will ask for a motion to approve Resolution 45-23 with the 2 listed conditions, also the correction of the page 6 Scrivener's error and the revised landscape plan.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, we will move to staff reports. At this time, Travis, I believe, is going to give us a youth baseball update.
Good evening, Board. Travis Cheney, Parks and Recreation Manager. There's really no action that we're asking from y'all this evening. This is simply a follow-up to our February 7th meeting where staff said we'd come back after the end of the season, let y'all know how it went. And as you see in the memo, and as you likely remember, at the February 7th meeting, this board approved amending Boys and Girls Club of Western Benton County's service agreement to include youth baseball for this season. During that time, staff committed to taking care of the fields and facilities while Boys and Girls Club administered the program. During the season, we committed to meeting with parents, listening to concerns, surveying participants, and then at the end of the season, having a postseason meeting with parents to try to see what the future of youth baseball might be in Siloam Springs, and then to come back with y'all with that report. I'm pleased to say that overall, folks were really happy with the arrangement between both the city and the Boys and Girls Club this season. I can say from our maintenance staff side, the guys worked really hard on those fields and facilities, and I think our parks maintenance staff got 4 handwritten letters or postcards from residents saying how happy they were with the way those guys were taking care of the fields. And then the youth baseball program, as administered by the Boys and Girls Club, was a really great success, especially them turning it around in just a couple of weeks and starting that up. The Boys and Girls Club sent out surveys to parents during the season, kind of towards the end, asking a bunch of questions about how did you enjoy the season, what went well, what didn't go well. I would say the 2 most telling questions and answers that came out of that survey, one of which is in your memo there, asking, do you want to see a partnership between the city and the Boys and Girls Club going forward? And to that question, there was a 93% of the respondents said yes, we'd like to see it continue under Boys and Girls Club and city partnership. 7% said no. And then the second question was, after this year, do you think your child is likely to participate in baseball next year? 97% of people said yes. Under this arrangement, the Boys and Girls Club administers the program, city takes care of the fields, and then we also administer what we call our itty bitty program, which is the city has been doing for a number of years with both baseball and soccer. It's really popular, a great way to introduce very young children to the fundamentals of the sport. So we administered that program this year. Joey Hunter, our recreation technician, has been doing this for years, and it was really, really great. So we received good feedback both on the maintenance side, on the itty bitty program, and on Boys and Girls Club's administration of the league this year. And so what we plan to do as staff, having not heard from any parents or any other volunteer organizations that appear to have any interest in taking over the program, we will recommend in 2024, when Boys and Girls Club's contract comes up for renewal, we'll continue to keep youth baseball in there under them and continue the same arrangement of the city managing the facilities and the fields, Boys and Girls Club administering the program, and the city administering itty bitty. And I'm open for any questions that y'all might have.
Thank you, Travis. Directors, any questions at this time? Looks like we're
Great.
good. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Next is our second quarter nonprofit reports from the History Museum, Main Street, Siloam Springs, and Chamber of Commerce. Christina?
The second quarter nonprofit reports were included in the agenda.
So with that, I'm just going to ask, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to one of these reports? Mary?
Good evening, Mayor and Directors. Thanks for this opportunity to just kind of quickly go over the quarterly report for the Siloam Springs Museum. We are really excited for some of the things that have been happening. One important thing for us is that we've improved our board, which is the group that really contracts with you. They signed that agreement. So we have added 5 new board members, Rhonda Rutledge, Corey Irwin, Tricia DeMont, Vince Motzinger, and Mary Ellen Mathers. And we already had Alan Lamb, Jan McGurk, Missy Morris, and Carla Wasson as longer term members of that. So this was part of our strategic plan, was to improve our board, and so we were able to do that in this quarter. The next item is usually the development of that 3-year strategic plan. So the other component of that was for us to increase our media. I was at a meeting one morning and I started out by saying, well, the dinosaurs at the museum, and what I meant was Don Warden and myself are dinosaurs when it comes to social media. Everybody got real excited that we had dinosaurs at the museum, but that just wasn't the case. But anyway, we have been able to hire a part-time person who comes to us with a lot of experience from PBS in San Antonio. He grew up in Gentry. He's very familiar with this area, and he's already done a tremendous job for us. So we're very excited about that. And one of the things we're most excited about is the fact that our patronage, folks coming to the museum, have increased quite a bit. In March, we had over 149 people in a month. I mean, we wouldn't get that in 6 months a while back. So we're very excited about that. We had visitors from 18 states, 3 countries, Denmark, New Zealand, and United Kingdom. So that says that, and I know that John Brown is part of that pool of people from outside the area, but anyway, it's pretty exciting to have somebody come to our museum from those places. Our summary of fundraising activities. In the spring, we had a volunteer, last couple years, we had a volunteer group that did our Heritage Festival, and that group kind of went on to other things. So we did not have a Heritage Festival this past June. We are planning on it next year and bigger and better. So we've got more time to plan with the additional board members. I think that'll be a really neat event for you to keep your eyes open on. Also coming up September 30th, we will have our historic home tour. The Easterbrook Selby home that was built in 1915 will be that. You should see some PR coming about that in the next week or so. We are going to do the annual Tap into History, the historic downtown tour. And one of the things we're going to focus about history is, and I don't know if we'll find out anything, but moonshine in the Ozarks. So we'll find out about that. This year we'll be looking at an Arkansas Heritage Grant to help us with the Heritage Festival. And we are working on a couple new exhibits. One is photography, and the other one is on the Gunter family. So unless there are any other questions, that's part of my report.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Madam Mayor?
Yes, Betsy.
I just wanted to say how lucky we are to have Tricia DeMont. She's the granddaughter of Glenn Black and has an art history degree and has traveled from Russia to around the world to some of the top museums in the world. She is a huge asset. So happy to have her. And Corey Irwin also.
Yay.
Corey Irwin, yeah. She's kind of my children's person. She just has that creativity, and she goes, well, why don't you do blah, 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 blah? And I go, okay, yeah, we can.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm impressed with all of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. With that, next is our sanitation services.
Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Mayor.
Yes, no, you come
Forgot
right
about
on.
me? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry.
Abby Trinidad, Main Street, Siloam Springs, Marketing and Events Coordinator, and I just wanted to, since I happen to be here, take this opportunity. I know you guys have our second quarter report, so if you have questions about anything, I'm here for that. I just wanted to do just a kind of a thank you for your support for Discover Siloam and Fourth Friday. It's been an absolute blast to get to work with the chamber, our city staff, and Parks and Rec. And we're just really proud of that collaborative event. And we're excited to see that through the rest of, through the fall and then into 2024. And so we just wanted to, that's just one of our newest things that we're excited to participate and help grow. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your support. And again, if you have any questions about our quarterly report, I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you, Abby. I'm sorry, I almost forgot you. Yes, ma'am.
Amy Heavener, 810 Oak Crest Road. I guess since Arthur's not here, I'll just speak on behalf of the chamber.
Sure.
And thank you for everything you do to help the chamber. We really appreciate your support. And basically, everything's just been busy. Lots of ribbon cuttings. You know, town is growing, new businesses. So thanks for participating in those. First Friday Coffee is this Friday, and I think it's at Whataburger. And so hopefully all of you can come to that, and they'll probably have breakfast. And the other thing I was going to say is the back to school breakfast for the teachers is Monday, and that's a really big deal. And so if any of you are interested in coming out and supporting teachers, that'd be great. And the Chamber Challenge is at the Siloam Springs City Golf Course. And we do appreciate you guys trying to help the golf course also. That's been a really nice thing. So hopefully that will go well. And I know Arthur probably sent you a 15-page report, so I don't feel like I need to say a whole lot. So, especially since it's 91 degrees in here. So that was all.
Thank you, Cammie. Thank you all very much for that. Directors, do you have any questions or comments for them? If not, we will move on then to the sanitation services information. This item was brought to you all at the request of Director Allen. And Director Allen was unable to be here tonight. So I am going to ask that we move this information discussion to our next regularly scheduled meeting on 8/15 so that everyone can be here and he can participate in that discussion since it was his request. So if I have everyone's nod of the head yes, we will present that at our next meeting. And thank you very much for that. So then is our administrator's report. Christina.
Expenditures in excess of $30,000 include $51,000 for the riparian, I've said that wrong, riparian restoration at the kayak park, $44,249.13 for materials to protect substation equipment, $37,496.56 for airport fuel, $35,000 for an engineer to design a 8-inch water line down Waukesha Road. And purchases per resolution 34-23 include $57,968 for 2 pad mount transformers, $74,538 for 18,000 foot of underground primary wire, and $99,216 for AMI meters. And there are no further items of note.
Thank you very much. So with that, we come to the director's reports. And before I turn the floor over to the directors, very quickly, I would like to say on July the 24th, I had the opportunity to have a young lady here at City Hall. I received a call from her father, and he had asked if it would be possible for her to meet the mayor. And I said, sure, I would love to meet her. So 8-year-old Greta Rhodes came to City Hall, and she and I met. I gave her a little tour of things here, and we came into the director's in here to the chambers, and she got to see where you all sit. She was very impressed. This is a future constituent, ladies and gentlemen. So she had some questions, and whenever she was leaving, I told her that if there was anything that she would like for us to think about, that she needed to let me know, and I would pass that on to you. And I got a card from Greta, and she said, just a little hello, Mayor Judy, I would like to see more ice cream trucks, Greta. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard her request. So please keep that in mind in the future. And Greta, thank you very much for that. I told her perhaps she might be a mayor one day. So with that, I will move to the directors. And Mindy, we will start with you. And Carol, we will end with you.
Okay. Greta, I see the ice cream trucks downtown on Benton Street quite often. So in the evenings down there, that's a good time to go find an ice cream truck. So only one, but you know, they're there. I want to start by thanking the staff for bringing the annexation proposal to us and for being willing to kind of relook at that and come back later. Just real quickly, based on my understanding, sort of the way it came about is every 2 to 3 years, the board meets to set goals. And prior to those meetings, each of the board members presents several goals that they would like to see added to the combined list of board goals. And so this was one that was originally brought to us in 2020, I believe. A couple years later, when we met again to set board goals for the coming year, which would have been this year, we agreed to keep that as a board goal. And we set a deadline for hearing more about it by this quarter. So that's sort of how all that came about. Now there's been a change in board over the last 2 or 3 years. There's been a lot of changes going on. So I appreciate the staff's willingness to take on all the work that it took to put together that proposal, but I also appreciate their willingness to be flexible with just how and when we continue with this. So just a little note there. And I also appreciate all those who did reach out with their concerns, and wow, the turnout tonight. Pretty amazing. So thank you also to the pickleball community for coming and expressing their desires and concerns. Thank you to the Boys and Girls Club for taking on this year's youth baseball season and for being willing to continue that. And thank you to Parks and Rec for keeping the ball fields ready for those players to play on every week. I know that was a big job, but you all handled it. You handled it well, and it sounded like everybody was very satisfied with the work that was done. It was a great idea to do a survey at the end of the season, so we really do know going forward this was a good plan. And finally, I want to thank again, I do this after every fourth Friday, but I want to thank again all those that are involved with the fourth Friday event. It is such a neat collaborative event. It's an odd thing. One of my favorite parts is when I go to fourth Friday, by the time I get there, the ladies in particular, Abby and Lindsay and Megan and Charlie that have been working on it and have already been there 2 or 3 hours, and this last week we're all red-faced, but because of the heat. But you can just tell there's that camaraderie there. They've worked so hard to make it happen, and then the light on their faces is just evident that people are there and having a good time. Attendance may not have been quite as great this last Friday because it was so incredibly hot, but again, thank you, Parks and Rec. I see Travis there too. Thank you for all you do to prepare for that. I just can't I can't state enough how much I appreciate that event. So thank you for making it happen.
Thank you, Mindy. Ken?
I've just got one thing. I know we've all heard from citizens over the recent items to discuss. And I've talked to a lot of people, had invitations to the pickleball area. That was great. Reed, I really was just curious if you could walk the next day.
No comment.
Okay. And then numerous people reached out about the annexation. which is great. I'm so glad that people do that. And every time I talk to somebody, I encourage them to come to the meetings. Some are kind of intimidated, some are afraid, but I'm always trying to encourage them to come to participate and experience this. And this is why. And I'm sorry, I was moved tonight. As full as this room was, and the foyer, I think it's easy for us to take for granted, us here on the board. We turn around, we have our prayer, and we turn around and say the pledge. But to hear probably 100 voices behind us echoing that pledge as we stand up here and do that was amazing. I mean, it just gave me the heebie-jeebies. I mean, it was so strong and so moving, and it just, regardless of how we feel about issues, regardless of what our differences of thought might be, that unifies us, and we talk about that a lot. And I just want to thank everyone for that experience. And that is why we're here. That, and I could go on, but that was such a moving thing that we take for granted so often. And I appreciate everybody who came and did that. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Betsy.
I also appreciate what Ken said. My first instinct is always for the individual citizen. That's why I'm here. That's where my heart is, despite all the ridiculous rumors. I'm here to serve, and I'm here to represent the individual citizen. So I really struggled with starting to hear from citizens who didn't want the annexation versus, well, you know, I also represent the city. And then, you know, what do I do? Where do I stand? And then I realized I represent the city and the government is all about serving. And it's easy, I think, to forget that, but that's why we're here. We are here for those citizens. We are here to serve them and do what's right by them. So I really appreciate being willing to table the annexation and take a look at it and get the citizens' input, because that's why we're here. And that's where my heart is. I also, sometimes I hate social media. The comments about the annexation on social media, one person mentioned about how lazy city employees are, and actually more than one. And I get it, it's government. I mean, you're lazy, right? You work for the government. That is not the case in Siloam Springs, and it makes me angry. It takes everything I have not to fire off back to these people, but then I know it just goes downhill, and then whatever I say is twisted and used against me and makes it worse. So I'm going to say it now. One comment was about the employee who sits in his truck every day at the gas station. I hope you're listening who wrote that. That employee is taking his lunch break. He's not taking it in a comfortable air-conditioned office where he's got a refrigerator to keep his lunch and then a microwave to heat it up. He takes his lunch break sitting in his truck every day. That's why he's sitting at the gas station. While back, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, I have no concept of time, we had a water line break. Our employees worked, I think, 18 hours straight. They went home to shower, they went home to eat, and they stayed working. So anybody who wants to say the Siloam Springs staff and employees are lazy, I think you're projecting. It makes me mad because we have amazing staff. I'm not saying it to be nice. When I thank y'all, I mean it. Yeah, I speak the truth, and I mean it when I thank them. And we have a great staff, and I appreciate the citizens who came out, who reached out to us. Look at when you reach out to us and you talk to us, look what happens. We listen, and the annex didn't happen So, yeah, I guess that's it. So thank y'all, all the staff who's not here, and for how hard you work and how little you are recognized. So.
Thank you, Betsy. Lisa?
My comments kind of cover what everybody else has said. Thank you to the staff. They did exactly what we asked them to do. In 2020, when we had our board goals, we asked them to put this time and effort into this. I don't know what director, I've been asked, well, what director proposed it? I don't know. I don't remember in 2020. I mean, it wasn't on my list, but I can't tell you whose list it was on. But staff did dedicate a lot of time to this, and not everything that they bring to us passes, but they do put a lot of effort into it. And I truly mean thank you. And Travis, for your team, thank you for recognizing the pickleball, everything you do for them. I've heard a lot of compliments. We have an amazing Parks and Rec, and so I want to say thank you for your staff and everything that they do. I mean, they truly are amazing. And thank you to the citizens that come to any meeting. As you can see by tonight, your voice is heard. Whether you think it is or not, your voice is heard. And it's hard to stand up at that podium and say what you're thinking, but we appreciate it and we need it. We can't represent you without your voice. So whether you're for us or against us, I've always said, whether you agree with me or not, I still want to hear from you, because that's how I can represent you the best. And so I wanted to make sure I said thank you to both the audience and to the staff. And I think that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to say thank you for stealing my thunder earlier tonight. I spent hours preparing for tonight, and we just buzzed right past
Just
it.
moved you right on, didn't I?
No, I'm not letting this go very quick, am I? I do want to make a few comments concerning annexation and about what's going to transpire in the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years. Some of you may have read or heard that we are now considered a super region in this area, all the way from Tulsa to the corridor from Bentonville, Fayetteville area. And what that means is growth. And the state line where we connect with Oklahoma, we're the number 2 entrance exit in the state of Oklahoma now, is what I've been told. Number 1, I believe, is in Memphis. But to be number 2 in Little Siloam Springs, we have that much traffic coming through here. That's tremendous. And we've also seen recently that Highway 412, it's not thinking about it, but it's going to become an interstate in the next 20, 25 years. Now, I may need help driving it, but I plan on driving that one day. But we need to plan for it today. And this may sound kind of comical or even funny, but I just want everybody to know in Siloam that if you live on the edge of town and think things are going to stay the same, they're not. We are growing. We're slated to double the population by 2040. In this last census, I think, was 18,000 something. And we don't do that by not having some growth. And I don't say that as a threat, but as how do we do that? How do we work together with that? There might be a few of us in this room that remember when Siloam Springs was maybe 6,000 people. I moved here in 96, there were 9,000. Now to be thinking that we're going to grow to 40,000 in, 17 years? That's tremendous. We have an opportunity, and it stands before us. And we can put our head in the sand, or we can be proactive, intentional, and calculated, and do this with excellence together. Yes, we're going to have growing pains, but we must work through the pain to achieve the best end result. I don't want to give up Mayberry any more than any of the rest of us. But you are the ones that make this community great, and you are the ones that are going to keep it that way. We need a city that knows who we are, what we are doing, and where we are going. This can only be achieved through a strong sense of unity. We are growing. Let's do it together. We must take that time to interact and work with the people of our community who live in the county and those who live within the edge of our city limits. Again, we are growing. It's just how are we going to grow? Local government does not have political parties. We have citizens. Things are going to look different around here. We're going to see pickleball courts. We're starting to see townhouses. Those are things we didn't see, but they're things we need to see. Everywhere? No, but we need to work together. Many of us have children, even grandchildren. Let's give them something great to take hold of and run with. The future staring us square in the face every day and asks, what are we going to do about it? We have an opportunity. We're on the threshold. Let's boldly cross over that threshold. When it comes to annexation, we need a win-win. We don't need a victory-defeat. And that's only going to be achieved when we work together in unity. And I'm asking for that over these next months, that we can put something together, not as a land grab or because I don't like somebody or we just want to make a line straight, but that we can do what's best for our community. And when this interstate comes through and all the things that are happening, we're standing tall. That's what I'm asking, and I want to be a part of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Reed. Carol?
I would echo everything that Director Carroll has stated. We were here. I think the majority of everybody came out because we were talking about annexation. And I think when you are a growing community, annexation is inevitable. But it affects you personally, and I understand that. And people do not like change. But at some point, annexation is going to come about. And I hope we can all work together to make that possible and make Siloam even better community than what we have. I appreciate everybody that came out. I appreciate our staff. I appreciate the staff reports that you give us. It makes our job a little bit easier to understand what we're working with. And I appreciate our citizens that come out and support us. You might not like our decisions, but you understand why we're making those decisions. And we are making them because we feel it's in the betterment of not just one person, our whole community. So I appreciate you coming out, and I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you all.